The Racing Postcast in association with Paddy Power. They prize support UK and Irish racing the night before.
Hi there, welcome along to our regular Monday morning weekend review postcast. I'm Bruce Millington and I'm delighted to be joined by my Racing Post colleagues Tom Siegel and Nick Watts. And also from Paddy Power, it's their ubiquitous PR man Paddy Power, fresh from a month in Paris, a week in the Open. He's jamming in a couple of days at the office to put his expenses in, and then he's off to Galway next week. So we will find out the latest odds and also see if his liver is surviving this midsummer ordeal. Looking back on the weekend, I suppose the big ticket item was the Darley Irish Oaks, so we'll look at that. Seventh Heaven won it for Aidan O'Brien, not the filly they were expecting to win it with, but yet another notch on the classic bedpost for Aidan, the man who is going to, when he retires, smash every single record into smithereens for good. Nick Watts, what did you make of Seventh Heaven? And also, I suppose in general, we better ask the question, what is this batch of 3-year-old fillies like this year?
Well, it wasn't the result we expected, was it? We thought Even Song was going to win, and she didn't. She blew out badly, but it shows the strength of O'Brien's squad that he has the favourite who blows out and still wins the race. I don't know what to make of it, really. I mean, Seventh Heaven's form wasn't bad. I mean, she'd won the Lingfield race prior to that, but hadn't run particularly well in the Oaks. And I think it just goes to show that O'Brien has so many well-bred individuals in his yard that any one of them can come forward at any time and make a big leap forward. And this is what this horse has done. I was looking back through her form as a 2-year-old. She finished just 7th and 4th. She got off the mark at Dundalk, disappointed in the Oaks. But all of a sudden, she looks as though, well, obviously she's Group 1 material. She's just won one. And, you always, the oft-quoted example, of course, is Peeping Fawn from a few years ago, who looked fairly ordinary and then, of course, just hit the winning trail and couldn't stop doing it. And any one of these horses in O'Brien's yard can do similar things, and maybe Seventh Heaven is just the latest one of those.
It's very odd, isn't it, Tom? I mean, you look at, say, was it Quality last year? Qualify, rather, yeah. I can't even remember her name anymore. He's incredible, Aidan, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, he's the best trainer there is, isn't there? We've known that. I mean, the thing about this filly, Bruce, is that after she won at Lingfield, where she beat Architecture, let's not forget, who went on to finish second in the Oaks, Ryan Moore got off and said she hated the track. Whatever you do, don't go to Epsom. It's not her track. She'd be much better on a flatter track. Well, she did go to Epsom on soft ground, and clearly she didn't run her race. But I think she was incredibly impressive on Saturday. If you look how much ground she gave the first two. She gave them a lot of ground and thrashed them. I thought she was really impressive. I think the track and the ground, I think she's really good. I wouldn't be surprised if she turns out to be a Yorkshire Oaks filly and beats the older fillies. I think we can, because she was an outsider and because she blew out in the Oaks, it's easy to write her off as not being as good as she could be. But just watching the race again, you can't help to think that she's seriously good, this Seventh Heaven. Nice flat track. I think she'll be hard to beat.
OK, have we got any prices for Seventh Heaven, Paddy, to go and do anything amazing? A bit of art,
maybe? We sure do, yeah.
What have we got?
She's 5-1 for the Yorkshire Oaks, and I totally agree with Tom. I think she was very impressive, and just the fact that she wasn't one of the top of the betting in the day, you often kind of don't give them the credit they deserve, like when the favourite doesn't perform, but the form stands up well. So she's 5-1 for the Yorkshire Oaks, and you wouldn't be backing anything against her, I think, at this stage, if you knew she was definitely going there. And the Arc, let me see if I can find her here, if she's in here. I don't know. She's not in the Arc battle that I can see. So there you go.
But she's not one to just write off as a little fluke, you know.
Definitely
I wouldn't think so, because the Lingfield form has stood up. Because Architecture, she looks like she's just improved quicker than Architecture. But the fact that they finished first and second again, that trial obviously stands up.
And I think the track's the key, Paddy. I think she doesn't like those. Lingfield and Epsom wouldn't be her game. I think somewhere like York, she could improve
York's
again.
York's ideal then, if she wants flat,
And was that a good result for you, Paddy? Even Song blowing out like that? I must admit, I can't remember whether Even Song's a shortener or a drifter or what on the day. What did they do?
Even Song was well. I think she went off. Let's have a look what price she went off. But she was very well backed. She looked like banker material, I guess. So Seventh Heaven was a very good result for the bookies. Not a bad weekend, to be fair, all in.
And Nick, with Even Song, I mean, obviously she went into the race with a lot of people thinking that there wasn't much to debate with the race. She'd crossed the post first. I suppose as a punter, you've always got to look back and try and learn lessons, haven't you? And on reflection, she did have a fair bit to find still on RPRs, didn't she? I mean, what's the lesson there with something like that?
Well, I was really struck by what Aidan O'Brien said after the race. He's really honest and helpful in his kind of post-race analysis. He said, that he'd really try to get Evensong absolutely spot on for the Ribblesdale, as he actually did. She won that race comfortably. And in his view, he trained the horse far too hard for Ascot, and she hadn't yet recovered from it for this race. I'm inclined to believe that. I don't think you can write a horse off after one bad run, and she had looked really, really good, not just then, but promising at Newmarket the time before. So I just think she needs a little bit of time off, time away. Aidan O'Brien, as we've already said, he's a genius. He'll bring her back. There'll be something in the autumn for her, and she'll prove herself to be a good horse.
Tom, would you echo that? Would you still have Evensong on the radar?
No, I wouldn't actually, Bruce. I mean, look at the room in front of me here. It's absolutely shocking, isn't it? Ajman Prince, who was second in the Ribblesdale, finished last on Saturday. Shall We ran at, who was fifth in the Ribblesdale, was tailed off at Newmarket. We Are 90 ran on Saturday, was tailed off. Desert of Life, who finished not that far behind, was beaten in a handicap. The fly on the ointment's Architecture, obviously, but I think it's safe to say now that Architecture didn't run a race at Ascot. I just think the Ribblesdale's form is bad, and we've probably overrated her.
OK, well, one female racehorse who certainly did bounce back at the Curragh was Mecca's Angel. 5-4, Paddy. That must have come for her.
Yeah, they did. I mean, like when you looked at in advance, it looked like she was the obvious one because the ground is a bit soft. Then you had obviously Soul Power was in there as well, and he's probably achieved more than the rest of them, but the conditions probably weren't in his favour.
You must have been chuffed with that, mustn't you?
Yeah, I mean, he ran. To be honest, you're kind of a bit disappointed. I kind of would be hoping that he would have gone close, but I think the reality is that just the ground he didn't pick up. He's probably not quite as good as he was either. So the good news is we get to back him now at 20-1, and prices like that in the Nunthorpe, and throw my money away at 20-1 rather than 5-2. But there you go. But yeah, Mecca's Angel was very good. Now she absolutely hacked up. Now she really did, and she looks like if they get that drop of rain before the Nunthorpe, she looks like she's going to be the one that's going to be hard to beat. But the Nunthorpe could be a really, really hot race as well. It depends what everything that shows up. I mean, they're talking about what Profitable will be there. Acapulco could show up again as well.
Give us our appetite with a blast of betting then, Paddy. And by the way, while Paddy's looking at that on his laptop, I should remind everyone that not only does Paddy have one of the great jobs in the world, trawling the globe for first-class sporting events to attend in person, but he also owns, or his family do, Soul Power. So, yes, he is a lucky sod.
Yeah, there you go. Profitable is the favourite, 3-1. Profitable is the horse who absolutely murdered us in the July Cup. There you go. Not that I'm a bitter at all, but when So Far really fired that day. He's 3-1. Mecca's Angel 7-2. Again, ground dependent. Acapulco 11-2. Lady Aurelia is 8-1, along with the Tin Man, who bounced back as well. Another one, an Ascot disappointer, bounced back. Eastern Angels in there 8-1. Mutsmere is 10-1. How are we such a big price? Soul Power is way down there. Where are we gone? Jeepers, this is embarrassing. Soul Power. I know, but see, the thing is, because I do go in and say I think it's very well fancy again, they deliberately go the biggest price. Just
do they?
It's 20-1.
I can just imagine Brendan Dew just sitting there drumming his fingers on the table while you make a case, and then
but he's 20-1. But I mean, I think in his defence, he ran a cracker in the July Cup. Now he was unlucky, finished 8th or something, but he might have been second had he not got hampered, and that was over 6. So he's perfectly entitled to still be there. He's 9 years old, so he's not getting any quicker.
Get Hughesy back to ride him.
Yeah, take him or
Hayley Turner's back out of retirement.
We've retired 2 jockeys now. We retired Murta and we retired Hughesy, so everybody's afraid to ride him now because it could be the end of it for them,
Nunthorpe fancies, Tom?
Well, just talking about those 2 races, just going back, Bruce, I mean, it's one for the forgiveness brigade, isn't it? I'm rubbish at that. I can't forgive
you're bitter,
horses.
Aren't you?
I'm really bitter. If I've backed one and they've disappointed, I can't get back on the horse again. Mecca's Angel and Seventh Heaven, perfect examples of that. Look, if it's soft ground, Mecca's Angel, I think, a great. Obviously, Lady Aurelia is the fly in the ointment. But if they're going to run Acapulco, I doubt Lady Aurelia will win. That's the vibes at the moment. 7-2 is quite a big price. If it turned up with a bit of ease in the ground, and every time there seems to be a meeting at York, it seems to be softish, she'd be a very hard horse to beat.
Nick, would you endorse that view, or have you got one? Oh, Cottage Glory, probably.
No, I would endorse what they say. I mean, I really like Brando going into the race. I thought he was a lively one for the Nunthorpe. So for Mecca's Angel to do to Brando what she did shows she's right back in the groove. And excuses for the Ascot run, she was in season, apparently, according to Michael Dodds. And also interesting what he said after the race, that he doesn't think she's as ground dependent as we scribes tend to think. And he says good ground, just maybe slightly on the soft side, would be fine for her. She doesn't need mud, probably doesn't want it these days. So it was quite interesting what he had to say. But if she turns up in that kind of form, she's got a cracking chance of doing it again. OK, well, I just suppose that people who backed her at Ascot and left it behind, of whom I am one, will just have to put it down as one of those unexplained blips in an otherwise superb career. Mecca's Angel really is superb.
Also on the comeback trail, well, not so much comeback necessarily, but over the weekend, Gordon Lord Byron showed what a fantastic old boy he is. Boca Bacchiata came back. And we also had a good win for Peace Envoy in the 2-year-old race. What was your highlight from Ireland over the weekend, apart from the Irish Classic and Mecca's Angel, Nick?
Oh, definitely seen Gordon Lord Byron come back. I think he was 16-1, wasn't he? And Paddy's rightfully very proud of Soul Power, but Gordon Lord Byron is a very similar kind of horse and just keeps coming back year after year and keeps doing it. And tremendous from Tom Hogan. I think the horse only cost about €2,000 or €3,000 when as a youngster. So what a bargain he's been, and just it shows there's hope for all of us, you know.
Absolutely, Tom. What did you make of Peace Envoy?
Yeah, I liked him, Bruce. I thought, I'm not forgiving, but I do like listening to the trainers afterwards. And Aidan was really complimentary about this horse. He said that he's getting better and better, and that he's trying to split him and Caravaggio now. Now, on what we've seen so far, Peace Envoy is about 10 lengths behind Caravaggio. But if he's thinking that he's in that league, we could see this horse get better and better. I mean, I think he's thinking of either the National Stakes or the Prix Morny or a Group 1. I thought it was quite impressive on Saturday. I mean, it's, let's not get, too carried away. Psychedelic Funk was beaten miles in the Coventry. But he's still a pretty good horse. And I think, he's one of these Aidan O'Brien horses that keeps improving. I think we haven't seen the best of him yet. I like him.
Absolutely. OK, we'll have a quick break and then we'll look back at the British highlights from the weekend.
Here's Paddy Power's latest horse racing offer. It's money back as a free bet if your horse finishes second to the SP5 at one meeting every day this month. Paddy Power, you're welcome. Max free bet £25, 18 plus. Please gamble responsibly.
OK, we weren't expecting too much in the way of high-quality action in Britain over the weekend. It was one of those ones where the calendar just throws up a slight lull in terms of quality. There's some really, really decent action going on all over the place. Let's start with the Tin Man in Hackwood. I thought that was a decent turn of foot, didn't you, Nick?
Yeah, won nicely. Again, it was a horse that disappointed slightly at Ascot. Had an interrupted preparation for that, according to James Fanshawe, but won a bit more comfortably than the margin suggested, and wasn't far away on Champions Day last season, and another year on his back, and that's probably where he'll end up again. And he's a dab hand with these kind of horses, James Fanshawe. He'd be high on my list for Champions Day, put it that way.
OK, and Tom...
There's another one, Bruce, isn't he?
The comeback weekend, wasn't it?
Ran so badly at Ascot when we were all on him.
I didn't think it was that bad. I mean, he did get in a bit of trouble, didn't he?
He was 8th of 9
yeah,
at
I know,
3
but
to
I mean,
1.
he wasn't beaten far, was he, Tom? They were finishing a heap.
No, to be fair enough. But when you got high hopes for him, I had really high hopes for him being champion sprinter at the start of the season, and sort of blew out so badly at Ascot. But he was good again yesterday. Rode him a lot differently. I think the race went better for him. I'm not convinced he would have beaten Divine if she'd got a clear run, but I thought he's very good clearly, and I don't think he's a 5 furlong horse. I don't think he's quite that quick. But the Haydock Sprint Cup, I think he'll be a hard horse to beat there.
And what about Mrs. Danvers? I'm not quite sure how many superstars the Weatherby Super Sprint has thrown up, but Mrs. Danvers did it quite nicely. Tom, would you?
Yeah, she's very good. Yeah, she proved that the fast ground wasn't an issue for her. Yeah, well, what's not to like? She's won all her races. She seemed to win with a load in hand again. The form that the right horses were all placed. There were all the right ones behind her.
And another absolute bargain buy as well.
Yeah, £1,000 she cost.
£1,000. See, there's hope. You were talking about earlier, Nick, about hope for us all. You can buy a horse there for £1,000 and go on and rule the world. It's great, isn't it?
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's what the game is all about. We could have clubbed together, Bruce, and maybe bought it ourselves.
Should we do that? Should we buy it?
Hold on a minute. They pay you enough for you to buy a horse?
Well, if they're only £1,000 to get 5 of us in, that's 200 quid each.
Post, Bruce.
And they're not expensive to train, are they? How much is Soul Power a year, Pad?
I think the general rule of thumb is about 1,500 a month, so it's dear enough. But if you have a syndicate together, it's fine. You know what I mean? But the good thing about having a horse,
syndicate.
But Eddie Lynham, you see, owns half of all his horses. Well, most of his horses, and he already owns half of them anyway. So it's only half price for training. You know, you're not kind of not in it for the prize money. Sure, you're not. You're in it for the glory days out and all that kind of stuff. You know.
I suppose so. Someone always told me years ago when I first started working in racing generally, said just pick a horse that you like and pretend you own it. You can go and watch it run. You have to stand the other side of the paddock fence outside rather than in, but it costs you absolutely nothing. And I've followed that advice all the way through ever since. Paddy, was it a weekend for the bookies or the punters, all in all?
I think it was okay. I mean, it was okay all round. I mean, like the bookies probably came out just ahead when you add everything into it, because it's not obviously more than just the racing on. The Open was pretty good result with Stenson as well. So so I think bookies probably just ahead this weekend, but probably not the busiest weekend of the year.
That Open was something else, wasn't it? Absolutely captivating. Okay, right, one horse each, please, to go in your Racing Post horse tracker. Nick Watts, who's yours?
Oh, it was in Ireland yesterday. The horse of Dermot Wells, Light Laughter, is fourth in the maiden one by Velveteen. Looked a really nice horse, and I think it's in the Moy Glare in a few weeks' time, so that would be mine.
Tom?
When you said there was one from Dermot Wells yesterday, I thought, oh my God, you've spoiled my fun again. I like Rose de Pierre, which was another Dermot Wells horse. Won a handicap there yesterday off a marker 91. It's clearly a stakes filly. She won easily. And I've got to throw in my old friend Orion's Bow, who won the Hamilton Scottish Stewards Cup. Couldn't have won any easier. If we're talking about horses that could be a horse to...
Yeah, that was ridiculously impressive, wasn't it?
I know. He is clearly a group horse. I wouldn't at all surprise me if he ended up being a competitor for the Tin Man in the Haydock Sprint Cup. He's that good.
Wow. There's every chance the lads have trampled all over your study this morning, Paddy, with 2 Dermot Weld horses, or have they left you scope for a shrewd pick for the horse tracker?
I've got a very shrewd pick from behind the scenes and inside knowledge.
Oh, wow, excellent. Like the sound of this.
So I'm going to put my hand up for Captain Power, who finished fifth in the Scurries at Leopard, or not Leopard, at the Curragh on Saturday, and he's just one that's really improved. Is improving run after run, and I think much as I backed him on the day, he's done on the line for 4th place, backed him each way at 16s, but he's one that will probably come on a lot for that run, and it could be one to follow in some of those sprints up the Curragh, I think, for the rest of the season.
Excellent. Well, can you give us a more specific nod, maybe a discreet text message on the day when
yeah, no problem. Whenever
I
see him entered, like 30 seconds before the off, I'll send you a text going on or whatever. Yeah,
that's what I like. It's like those blokes on the telly, isn't it? They go, right, what do you fancy? Just as they're going.
Oh,
into,
I know.
That's no good.
Doesn't that drive you mad?
I know.
Doesn't that drive you absolutely mad? So
mad.
they're sitting there and they're summarising the race and they're droning on about this one and this one's right, and they say, OK, last one's about to be loaded.
What do you
Dave,
fancy?
who do you fancy? And then, you're scrabbling around. There's nothing worse, is there? That feeling where you're punching and your fingers go all fat, don't they? You get the wrong button and you end up not getting on, and then they spend the next 30 seconds slapping each other on the back for their fantastic tip.
Weren't we brilliant?
That leads on nicely to the burning issue, betting coverage on TV. Now, I think it was on this day last week that Mark Johnson woke the news desk from their stupor and gave them a lovely front page story, for which we're very grateful. Mark thinks not only is there too much betting chat on TV coverage, but that there shouldn't be any whatsoever. It's been the burning topic of the week. Paddy, what would it do for turnover, do you think, if ITV Racing said, you know what, that Mark Johnson came out with a good idea the other day, ban betting talk from our broadcast. We're going to do that.
I don't think it would have as big an impact on turnover people think, but I think it would have a big impact on viewers. Like, seriously, I mean, you've got At the Race and Racing UK there anyway that people can turn to. But I think, for me, I actually can't get my head around how anyone could think. I mean, I used to always say to Tanya Stevenson and that, saying, like, did you ever actually record how much time you get on air? 'Cause you must get like less than 3 or 4 minutes during a whole afternoon of actually betting coverage. So I thought there was very little already. I mean, that would my feedback if anyone asked me about Channel 4 racing would be that there's not enough focus on the betting. I know the morning line is quite betting focused because it has to be, because the preview is betting is a language that everybody involved in racing understands. It helps you like even put a horses in order in your head or whatever. Do you know what I mean, in terms of the form book? Like, so like if you saw a race, most punters, if you show them a race card, like me included, if you show me a race card, unless it's like a proper group one where I know all the horses, and say, there you go, there's the numbers of the horses, there's the jockeys, the trainers, but don't give me any idea of the odds. I mean, like, I'd say 90% of them would get the wrong favourite. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
So it's the betting is a language that we all understand. I think betting coverage, actually betting makes racing more accessible. People want to have a bet, but also people understand the sport a bit better with that reference point. And I just kind of laugh and shake my head and go like, it's like, because I have a mate as well, a mate who works in the breeding industry, and he believes that the crowds would go up if there's no bookies and betting at racetracks. I'm just kind of like, you're literally living in the cloud cuckoo land. Like, 'cause when in Leopardstown they went on strike years ago. The bookies went on strike in Leopardstown, and the attendances were through the floor. I'll never forget it. It was a year. Now I was only a kid, I was a teenager, I think, but I remember Dad was standing down and everything, and just there was nobody turned up to Christmas racing at Leopardstown. It's just, I think, it's like there's no point. It's like, why are we starting another scrap among the factions in racing? Like, it's just, I don't know. It's crazy. It's head scratching.
Racing does love a scrap, and I tell you what, I was at Leopardstown last Thursday. I bet even when the strike was on, there were more people than there were last week in the ring. It was absolutely dead. They did have a good band on after racing, though. They were excellent. Yeah. Nick Watts, if you were in charge of ITV Racing, would you have more betting focus than Channel 4 has, less, or roughly the same?
I think roughly the same. I think they've got it, that element of it quite right, really. I don't necessarily agree with what Mark Johnston said, but I think he's done us all a massive favour by introducing the topic and getting us talking about it, because it's really important that ITV get it right. And for all the good things that Channel 4 do, I'm not sure they've got everything right. I'm not a particular fan of the truck that they sit in, for example.
No.
It takes them away from the general public and the atmosphere of the day when they disappear into the truck. And and maybe there's a bit too much kind of dry form analysis. I know by its very nature, form analysis, just rattling through pounds and lengths and that kind of thing, it's difficult to make it sound exciting.
That's for Racing UK and ATR, surely, isn't it, Nick, all that?
Yeah, I think so. And, it's amazing the amount of people I take racing who aren't necessarily into the sport at all, but they come to it and they say this is fantastic. It's a really colourful occasion. There's some real characters here, members of the public, racegoers, that kind of thing. I don't think that kind of side of things at the races ever gets put on the TV enough. We need to see more of the characters. And you ask anybody who they think is the most famous person in racing who isn't into it, they'll say Frankie Dettori or John McCurrick. It'll be one of those two, maybe somebody else, maybe AP McCoy, because they're the characters of the game. And so there's so many things that racing can improve upon. Trainers need to be made to speak to people more readily. Ryan Moore needs to smile a bit more and realise that it's part of his job to bring this over to the public. And other sports are leaving racing behind in that respect, and they really need to get with it and get with it fast.
Here. Tom, apart from getting rid of that Tom bloke from the morning line, what would you do to improve the lot of the punters?
I'd have more betting, Bruce, if the truth be told. I think the best part about the racing, as Nick says, is the atmosphere in the ring. When I go racing, that's the best bit of it. Looking around doing that. We've lost it a bit. Exchanges have made a total difference to the betting. That's why, like you were saying at Leopardstown, and when we were at Sandown the other day, I felt a little bit disillusioned walking out. There wasn't the atmosphere that I used to remember. A little bit of that is to do with, one of the reasons for that is to do with the exchanges. People can get better odds at home. Why go to the races? But I think that's still the main attraction to most punters and to most racing fans is the hubbub of the ring. Sitting in there, watching the moves, the shakers, and let's not forget the odds. What they do is they quantify horses' chance. That's why we watch horses. That's why we watch any sport. That's why we watch the Open. Because we want to know who's the best. What sort of chance do they have? And I think that's the key to betting. And I cannot believe we want less of it. I want more.
And also, Johnson's saying, well, other sports don't go on and on about betting, but I actually think they should. When they go back to the studio at Sky, for instance, and they analyse someone's swing, I don't care. I'm not remotely interested in what someone's swing looks like, but I am interested in what the latest odds are.
I've noticed that they're moving more to that, Bruce. Have you noticed how odds were, quite often on the Sky pad there, they were going to the odds. They had an odds heading on their screen.
Oh, well, that's good.
And I thought that was great, and that came up. And when when during the football, they're often talking about odds. When they go to the Soccer Saturday, it's all about what's this odds. This is the.
Yeah, but they still don't structure on Soccer Saturday. They should do.
But they do encompass it a little bit. They will encompass it more.
Not
I think.
Enough.
I think.
Well, if you lads, if you look at say things, it's the extremes where the odds come into massive. So Leicester weren't just shock winners. They're 5,000 to 1 winners of the Premier League. So Dublin were playing the Leinster final yesterday against Westmeath. They were 1 to 100. And during commentary, when they kicked on, but they absolutely hosed up. But the commentator kept referencing the fact they were 100 to 1 on. That means that only 1 in 100 times would you expect Westmeath to beat them. It quantifies. It's a language we understand.
I had a successful GAA bet over the weekend. I bet Mayo to beat Kildare. I think it was excellent. I really enjoyed it.
How the hell do you know who told you that one?
David Jennings in the Racing Post.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Follow DJ. He's brilliant.
I didn't see that.
No, he's mustard, honestly. Right, let's look ahead to some of the weekend action and beyond.
Here's Paddy Power's latest horse racing offer. It's money back as a free bet if your horse finishes second to the SP Fav at one meeting every day this month. Paddy Power, you're welcome. Max free bet £25, 18 plus. Please gamble responsibly.
Hi there, you're listening to Bruce Millington, Nick Watts, Tom Siegel, and from Paddy Power. Looking ahead to the weekend, and the big ticket item is the King George VI and Queen Elizabeth Stakes at Ascot, to give it its full name, in case you were thinking the King George at Kempton was coming up. And Paddy, it looks like it's postponed to lose, doesn't it? How do you bet?
Yeah, it's slightly annoying that with this happening. I mean, it's not Postpone's fault that he's so bloody good, but it's slightly annoying that you got a big race like this. It looks like it's going to be uncompetitive. He's 1-2. He's into 1-2 now. The price is shortened a bit again this morning. Dartmouth is 5-1. You got Highland Reel 6-1. Wings of Desire is an 8-1 shot. Erupt's 8-1. But Postpone. It's all about Postponed. Looks a monster this year. So and I like it both physically and form wise. But I think it's going to be very hard to beat.
You need to get your Without Postpone book up quite soon, don't you?
Yeah,
Right,
look, it might be a good race today. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, Nick, will Postpone win? And if so, who will finish second?
Yeah, Postpone will win. I echo what Paddy said. It's really disappointing that, it just seems so far in advance of the others. If there's one price out there that's kind of screaming out at me that could finish in the frame, the Grey Gatsby, 20-1, so much Group 1 form to his name. Surely he's got more chance of finishing a good second or third than some of those higher up in the betting. And there's no Hawkbill. Highland Reel is okay. He's not fantastic. Wings of Desire, he doesn't really float my boat too much. So the Grey Gatsby, 20-1.
Well, let's see if Wings of Desire floats Frankie Dettori's boat. Here is Frankie talking about the Derby fourth.
He had a nice break after the Derby. I don't think Pat Epsom really suited the horse, but Ascot, King George was suiting better. It's not open. Postpone is a sure price favourite. Take a good one to beat him, but never been afraid of one horse, so we're going to take him on.
Never be afraid of one horse, Tom. It's a mantra that's stood you in good stead down the years. Will you be taken on Postponed?
He's my favourite horse, Bruce. If I can have a little rant here, it's about the King George. When I was growing up, it was the best race of the year. I loved it. It was all the Derby winners went here. The blinking Arc de Triomphe. I know everyone likes trawling off to the Arc de Triomphe in the autumn, but it has ruined the King George. The King George used to be the race for all the best horses. I don't know why trainers do not want to run their horses in the King George anymore.
Yeah, well, that's not the Ark's fault. That's the trainer's fault.
No,
you can
it
do
is.
both. There's ample time between.
But it's not the Ark's fault. It's the Ark's marketing that has taken over from. All we talk about is the Ark these days. I can't outstand the Ark compared to the King George. The King George should be the British race, which all the top 3-year-olds, the Derby winners, run for. And we never, ever get it anymore. It's such a disappointment. And that's why we're left with Postponed at 4-7. We should be seeing a couple of the Derby horses or the Oaks fillies. That's what used to happen. And that used to make it the greatest race of the whole year for me. It's disappointing now. But then again, we'll get to see Postponed and he'll win.
I will sod the King George. What prices have you got for the Ark, Paddy Power?
Let's have a look. The Arc. Yeah, Tom, you're such a grumpy old man
today.
It's
They used to be great.
Yeah,
life's changing,
things
Tom.
but you used to walk to school on your
It's
bare
only
feet.
because you lot troll off for a nice weekend in Paris and the rest of us have to work.
It is, to be fair. It's one of the best days race of the year now, the quality.
Exactly.
Anyway,
It's like the Breeders' Cup. You'll say, I love the Breeders' Cup.
I've haven't been to a Breeders' Cup
Thank
yet.
God for that.
Postponed is 5-1 favourite for the Arc. Harzand is 6-1. Minding is 8-1. Found is 12-1. US Army Ranger 12 and Order St George 12. So Postponed
What
favourite
price
for the
is
Arc.
the French filly? Le Cressionnaire.
Le Questionnaire is 12-1 as well.
Right, coming in a quick Arc tip from each of you. Paddy Power, you can start.
An Arc tip?
Yeah.
Jeez. Le Cressionnaire. I actually backed Le Cressionnaire, I think, at some stage. I don't know, did you tip it up or something? For some reason I backed it. I don't know why. But I have that backed already, anti-post, I think at 16s or 20s or something. So I'm going to stick with Le Cressionnaire.
Tom?
That one. That's the one.
All right, and Nick?
Order of St George.
Yes,
for me.
well in, that's better. Order of St George is the
Is
one.
that just patriotic, lads?
Of course, it's not. I'm not patriotic at all. I'm the least patriotic person. I pick horses
because I went for Le
they're going to run
Cressionnaire
quick.
because it sounds like croissant.
He's trained in Ireland as well, and I'm not Irish, so there's no question.
That's why you like the Art rather than the King George.
No, I like the Art because it's a good day out. Nice freebie for
There
me.
we go.
Come on, Nick, tell us why. Put in words what I'm thinking. Why Order of St George is going to romp to
Very
victory
good.
in Chantilly.
Oh, he's simply a very good horse, and there's more to him than just a pure stayer. I'm sure he could be very, very good at 1.5 miles, as good as he is at 2.5.
Well in. OK, we are back on Friday to look ahead to the weekend and the lovely King George in greater depth. Let's hope Tom's on there to eulogise about it. But beyond that as well, next Monday we've got a special podcast which looks ahead to Goodwood and Galway. And before we do that, like I say, we're going to have a good look at it then. But chaps, I just want one horse from each of you that you think the listeners should be focusing on at either Goodwood or Galway. Nick Watts.
Oh, Champalace for the Galway plate for me.
OK, Tom Siegel.
Franklin D for the mile handicap. I know everyone will talk about the draw, but I thought he was incredibly impressive at Newmarket on Saturday.
And Paddy Power.
I was going to say Champallas, but I'm going to change my mind now because Nick's taken that one. So I'm going to go for Toofy in the Stewards Cup.
Excellent stuff. Thank you very much for your expertise. Thank you for listening. Like I say, back on Friday with the Weekend Postcast.
The Racing Postcast in association with Paddy Power. They stream all UK and Irish racing live on your mobile, tablet or PC.